Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of I Am I, the first one of year 4. I can't believe it, it's been this long. It's insane to me, right? I thought really by now that I would be some sort of rich and famous self-help guru. Delusion! Okay, so I was a little bit way off, but obviously, yeah, that's actually really why I started this whole thing. So, but no, it's all the same, and it's really not all the same, actually. A lot has changed. It's been pretty fucking amazing. My life is fantastic, and that's what I want to talk about today, is change and allowing change in our lives, how we relate to change, how we relate to life, right, as it changes. So it all comes back to always that same teaching, that at our core, that we are that divine, unchanging, steady space, right? So everything in this external world is constantly changing. Everything is in flux. Everything, all this green stuff moves towards this brown stuff. It's in this constant cycle. You go into that cyclical understanding of it as opposed to linear, which I think is a very powerful understanding. Which is also a powerful thing to know because it also emulates the breath. So that changing breath also shows you that every time you come up, that which goes up must come down. But every time it goes down, when that breath is done, it comes back in. Right? So change is inevitable. It is undeniable. It is going to happen, right? And what happens with us is that we start to get attached, and through attachment, there's so much resistance to change because we want to just stay comfortable. We want to stay in what we've known. We want to stay small. Because what happens is we start staying small if we stay comfortable because we're not expanding. We're not expanding to new ideas and new ways of being. There are so many different ways of operating as a human being. There are so many different ways of being, and we just kind of fall into what we've been taught or what we've even figured out or what we think we've figured out, but we'd actually been programmed, right? And there are just a multitude, there's an infinite number of ways to operate this mind. You know, like what is really happening in this room, in like a fucking, some classroom in some sort of tech entrepreneurship in Princeton or something. I was just listening to a Tim Ferriss, vlog or whatever. So, but what is happening in those rooms? What are the ideas and the concepts that people are talking about? And really, to be able to have that change, to be able to have progress, because that's what we want, is progress. Progress is perfection, right? So the constant change and flow is the nature of life. If we're trying to just keep it steady and stuck, then we're losing out on the beauty of life. We're losing out on those magnificent vicissitudes of life as they change and flow. And what same thing happens with our emotions, right? We start to try and stop it and stop that flow. We're not supposed to feel all this stuff, right? When we're supposed to be able to be allowing all of that change to happen. So really, in order to facilitate that change, we need to move into that absolute steadiness at our core, right? And it's that absolute changeless place. It's actually the reason why we can observe change in ourselves, in our bodies. We can see our body. We're not our body. The body just grows and decays. It's decaying now, right? But that's not who we are. That's in constant change, right? We can observe the change, so that's not us, right? And so, our emotions are not who we are. We think we are these emotions. We think we are these ways of being. We think we are the mind that is doing all that crap. And we're not. The mind is a tool. We are that steadiness beyond all of it. That steadiness beyond all of it, which once you move into that steadiness, allows room for the change and the flow to happen in life. Actually, we can actually precipitate change. We can actually move into it. I mean, how often are we stopping change in our lives? Are we not changing jobs when we know it's like awful for us, but because it's like, why do we not change? Out of fear, out of some sort of attachment, right? This is what the philosophy is all talking about. All this work is talking about these things. We just might not necessarily recognize how they manifest in our lives, right? So, or in a relationship, how long do we hold on to a relationship once we know it's done? We have to learn to listen to deeper places in ourselves and knowing why, to make sure that we're also not making change out of fear, so that we're not just stepping into change because we want something new, right? So, but to recognize that, because a lot of part of that is to sit with the steadiness, and once we sit with that steadiness, we can endure patiently whatever needs to happen. Right, so I'm not just saying go out there and change everything and just end the relationship, because it might not be what's right, but that's why we have to do all this work, to dig into all that changing stuff, our emotions and our thoughts and our concepts of self, so that we can see what does need to change, right? So maybe all you need to do is get the fuck out of that relationship, but you have stability, you have a nice fucking sex life, and you're afraid to be without that, or you have, you know, the financials and you're afraid to be without that, or you have the kids, right, which I understand, but a lot of times, you know, I don't have kids because I'm fucking making that choice, but it's so much better if you fucking actually do divorce for the kids than if you actually stay together and model for them the crap that you don't even recognize that you're modeling by having the relationship continue on in a shit way. So that's what they model and understand love to be. They're going to learn that. So congratulations if you're afraid to fucking make that change because you think you're doing it for the kids. You're not. You're fucking doing it for you, right? Because you're doing it for that's whatever. But anyway, so just know why you're not making this change or why you are making the change, right? So but the ultimate is to understand that if you know that life is constantly changing and you move into the steadiness and stability within you, that's how you will know when it's time to make the change. That's how you can step forward before the change drags you into it unwillingly. You might actually be the one to facilitate that change. You might be the one to be the change in the world that you want to see, right? Is to learn that that is the beauty of it, is to change, is to redefine, right? So it's, when did you decide and get stuck in who you were? When did you decide that this is the way I was? This is the way I am. This is the way my mind works. And in some ways it's powerful to know yourself, well, I don't do good with that, or I don't do this and that and that and that. But beyond all of that, if you move into that changeless steadiness space that is beyond all these ideas of who you think you are, you don't even know what you're capable of. I used to have an issue where I thought that certain people did certain things. I was an actor and a musician. That's what I did. I was like, writers wrote, directors directed, you know, cameramen were cameramen, business people were business people. I wasn't right for this or that, all this kind of stuff. And in some ways I was right, because I don't think I'm made to be sitting in a cubicle somewhere, right? But that's because it's something growing to something beyond that. There was still an inkling of like that I know that I wanted to be doing something, to be creating, moving, and changing, right? But I didn't realize that I was capable of all these other things because I was stuck in this idea of who I was. Even it might have been a great, woo, wow. It just went right over the sun. That was awesome. That was cool, right? So stuck in this idea of who I was and limited myself from stepping into all this magnitude of who I could possibly be. And I have no idea what is in store. I really have no idea what's in the future the more I surrender, because it is really surrender into something higher to allow that flow of change in our lives. So we're not stuck, right? So we're not just fucking stuck right here in this way. That's why the breath is such a powerful meditation. As I was saying, to see that rise and the fall of breath. So it's not just the stillness. That breath is constantly flowing. Every time it comes up, what goes up must come down. But every time it hits the bottom, it comes back up, right? And that's the nature of life. But also the breath is a model of both the stillness and the movement, because in that consistency of that movement, it is consistently with you for your entire life. Every single moment of your life, from the moment you're born to the moment you pass, that breath is that steadiness. And when you come back into that, you start to soften into a flow and allow change, right? And it really, when you start to do that, you start to allow the beauty of life to unfold. You start to allow, it's terrifying because I know my mind wants control. My mind wants control in the business things that I do. It wants control in the creative things that I do. It's afraid to it's actually afraid of its own greatness. It's actually afraid of the greatness because it wants to have the control. It's afraid to surrender and let go and just experience the magnitude of who I could possibly be by changing, because it wants to be stuck and no, you're this way. This is how it works. This is how the world works, and this is how your world works. And there are so many different ways to operate. There's so many different ways to move into change, to allow change, to surrender into the flow. To surrender into the flow of our emotions, all those changing emotions, and that stillness, that divine core underneath it all, holds space for all of it. And it's not about getting to one place of just stillness and nothing moves. It's about getting to that place of stillness so we're not stuck in the fluctuations and whipped around by life, but we're not doing anything because we're stuck in the space too of just like stillness and ease. It's that divine core, it's the actionless action that divine core stays steady so we can step into life, let it flow, let the emotions pass that need to, let the ideas and the concepts that created those negative emotions in the first place shift and change, shift who we are, who we think we are, so we can open up into a whole new experience of this life with the stillness and the beauty of the ever-changing world in which we live in. Makes you give in and die. I don't know what it makes you give in and what. It makes you give in and something I cry, die. I don't fucking remember. I thought it was pretty amazing that I only had one episode last year where I cried. Only one episode. And then I felt like today that might have been the case. So I need to slow down because I'm definitely just yapping away. I don't even know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of stuff coming up. Authentically, there's a lot of stuff coming up about surrendering into the magnitude of my own worth. Not trying to control it all. I could feel myself like, but, it's like, well, life wants to take me bigger than I could ever imagine. And I just want, but I almost want to control it and stay small. And I'm just trying to surrender into that bigger space of what is flowing in my life. And it's beautiful. And it terrifies me. That flow terrifies me. That's why I have to understand that flow. That really terrifies the mind. It's these, what am I really afraid of? What am I really afraid of? And Lakesh Lakin, I am you, you are me. Namaste.
She's a modern yogi, she loves to stand up on her hands. Yes, it feeds your ego, that's exactly what she needs. Now tell me, why the hell do you give a damn? So pardon elocution of my Sanskrit declension, termination, and know whatever that means. But I know when she's in the Prasarita Pada Tanasana, she's the hottest asana that I've ever seen. She goes